It generally, there's no point, et cetera, and so forth.
Yeah, we assembled it, so
Yeah.
we put it together so at least we know what parts
You
came with
can
it.
use it to crank up the power, and you can use it to do stuff like that, but generally that's somebody that doesn't really understand touch, because this thing will roll, but you can also, once you get the feel of it, you can get it going fairly slow. It's got a real touch to it. You can always tell somebody that's doing it for the first time because they'll sit down and do it at first. Just blast this thing off into oblivion. Thread stages. This one is for your sewing thread. This one is for your bobbin thread. I don't ever use the bobbin threader. The point of it is, you've got your one color here. You've got your same color because you're actually sewing from two sides. How the machine works is this: when it goes up and down, the needle goes up and down. It threads through the bottom. The hook on the needle grabs the thread from the bobbin and pulls it up. So you're actually sewing from two sides with two separate threads at any time. So generally you're using the same color in your bobbin as you are for your actual top stitch. The theory is that you can put the exact same kind of thread in here, run this one into your bobbin winder, and not lose any time once your bobbin in the machine runs out. You just take it off your bobbin winder, put it in your housing, slap it back in, and keep going. You don't have to actually stop and spend the 30 seconds it takes to wind a bobbin. So I think it's pointless. What normally happens is you're not paying attention, you look down, you've got a ball of yarn on this side of the machine. So this is your feeder. It turns this up and down. The only real reason that you use this is when I start, I'll put something in and then sink the needle into it before I start sewing, as opposed to just putting it under and letting it go. That way you're locked in place. You know exactly where you're going to go. This raises and lowers the foot. It won't sew unless you do this. You're just going to make a mess. You got to have the foot down. Bring it up. When you put the foot down, it pinches in between your walking foot down here, and that's what feeds the fabric through your machine. If I told them, if you ever come by and you see somebody doing this, they're not sewing correctly and they're going to screw up the machine. All your hands should do is keep the fabric straight. This will feed through the machine itself. This is your bobbin winder. We'll thread it up and work in a second. This is how you wind bobbins. It only engages when you push it forward. Right? If you watch this, not moving, spinning. Okay? So you have to engage this to wind the bobbin. They are supposed to disengage when the bobbin's full, right? There's a little tab right here that's very, very sensitive. Right. So when it fills full of string, it'll pop that and disengage it. I've never seen one work.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an awesome theory, but doesn't matter. It feeds the oil. If you guys put it together, it feeds the oil from this tray down here. There's high and low marks on it. Check it every month or two. If you run the machine without oil, it'll run just fine, like a car. It might run just fine without oil for 5 years. It might run for 30 seconds. So just make sure that there's oil in it. You don't need to worry about changing the oil if it's foggy or cloudy or anything like that. Really, all you got to do is keep feeding it to it. The oil that you feed in these things, you don't want to overfill it. It won't mess up the machine if you overfill it, but it gets really messy and it gets on you, and it never comes out the fabric. Like there will always be kind of sweat stain where it's spot.
We may keep this somewhere totally
Yeah, it'll stay. On/off switch. That's for replacing the fuse. Leave it alone, unless you want to replace the fuse. You'll twist it, it'll pop out, you'll put the fuse in, good to go. Unless someone is trying to sew through a brick, you shouldn't blow a fuse, right? The only way you're going to blow a fuse is if the needle catches because someone's trying to sew something too thick, it overloads the motor, it'll pop the fuse before it burns the motor. The belt wraps around here and then around the bottom of the motor, and you can actually, it's behind this, but you can see when you engage this, there's a wheel in there that just barely touches that belt, and that's what engages this, right? The belt should last you for a couple of years. You'll notice when they'll start to wear out because this will start to slip. You'll hear the motor going and you'll hear it go, but the needle's not going, right? And that's when it's time to change the belt. When you need to change the belt, just give me a shout. I'll come out and change the belt. It's easy to do. If anything else breaks on it, I would recommend taking it to the people that service these for a living. There's certain things on them that you can fix, but if it's something internal, don't mess with it. Take it to somebody that does this for a living, because there's a lot of really quirky weights and balances in these that can get thrown off by just a millimeter, and then it's not going to sew correctly. This is your back stitch right here. Holding this down, you sew backwards towards yourself. Lift it up, it sews that way. Every time you're doing a stitch, run 3 or 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, clunk, 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 back stitch, come back over your stitches, and then go forward. That'll ensure your thread doesn't unravel. Called back tag. It's a big one. This controls stitch length. 5 is very long stitch, 0 is barely any distance in between your stitches at all. Mid-range, 3 or somewhat in that area is a good one to keep it on, but the people that are sewing, I'm sure they'll have, it can vary by fabric. This controls your tension. I encourage people to leave it alone. You can start twisting on them, and basically what it does is there's a spring under this knob that shoves these 2 little plates together, and once we thread it, the thread goes in between those little plates, and that's what gives you the tension when it pulls back that yanks the bottom thread up, right? This controls how hard you're pushing those 2 plates together. This little wire piece right here is another piece of that tension rod, and when you thread it, you'll see if you don't get through this right, you're not going to sew. It's not going to work. It's impressive. This is another little tension deal. I at times don't use these. Some machines, they're back here, some they're up here. To me, it's just kind of pointless. I never understood what that is and what it did. Never did. So I don't touch them. I don't know what it is.
Definitely.
Never found a reason to need to doing this professionally. Part of threading, this is your arm that actually physically moves the thread up and down. Right? You'll go into your needle, and this is a guard for your finger.
That's good.
I always took them off.
Oh, no.
But I've actually sewn through my thumb.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So-
with the residents, it might be a good idea to
Leave
put
it
a guard
on.
on there.
Leave it on. You can legitimately hurt yourself with one of these. Like, when I did it, the needle broke off right about there. So it hit the bone, and that's when it snapped. But yeah, it was dope. This little plate right here, it's got magnets in it. So you have to reach under and kind of push up on the plate and slide it out. And that just lets you see in here is where your bobbin housing lives. Okay, that's your bobbin housing, that's your bobbin. When you put the thread in it, there's a little line right there, right? You put it in, the thread goes through that line, under this, and under that little hook, right? The only way that you can get the bobbin housing out is this little lever right here. You have to pull it up and then it'll pop right out. When you put it back in, there's a lot of it is based on feel. You'll put it back in and there's a hole down in there. Set it in the hole and kind of twist it a little bit, rotate it back until it snaps in. It just snapped in.
I have a question about it.
Yeah.
Does it matter, like, clockwise or counterclockwise, which way the thread gets put in? Because I know with my sewing machine, I get that confused so much.
Yes. You always want it. You see how this kind of points angles that way? You want the thread rolling
go
up
that way.
that way.
Okay.
So
good.
that's kind of giving you the basic
Or it's got
direction.
the slot has
So it's
an
like a
angle.
counterclockwise.
Yep. You don't want it coming up through here because if it's going back through here, it's got a smooth path under that and then out. If
Okay.
you're coming around this way, you're pulling thread and then it's basically making
back
a
on
U-turn.
itself,
Right.
yeah.
So
Go with the angle.
that way. When I load these back up, I load them in with your little flip down, and then you put it in the hole that's back there, and you'll turn it that way. You'll turn it towards the back, and it's about 90 degrees when it catches and it pops in. And when it pops in, you'll feel it. It won't go in unless it's in the right line.
Can you see it? Okay, you can see it.
So, and then this just slides back on. There's 2 screws right here that will take off this plate that guards the foot. The only reason that you really need to take that off is if you have bunched thread or something crazy happening under there, then you can take this off and clean it out. if your walking foot starts to spit out chunks of thread and stuff like that, take it off, clean it out. I noticed that you have compressed air in there, so just take compressed air and blow it in there. If it starts happening, it'll clean it right out. It's not a problem. And this just slides back in. There's no really reason to take that all the way out. So just slide her back in. Other than that, let's see if we can actually get it to work with one of these real things. I would not advise using this kind of thread machine.
Is that dollar store thread?
There's
Nice.
Well, we're not going to really be ordering a lot of thread for people, so
Oh,
we didn't have any. The last artist had all our own thread, and that's what she left in the bobbin. So I didn't think about it for the demonstration, but it's kind of like, well, you can't really do it without your damn thread.
I would recommend, there's a type of thread called Highmark. It's extremely expensive, but it is the best thread in the world. It will never break. It will never fray. It'll sew through anything and it'll be there forever. But it's also about $5 for a spool that's about that big and that big around. So it's expensive. But it's, Broadway quality thread. Like that's what they use for Broadway customers. What I use
And
is not that.
it's probably easier to use.
Oh, it's very
too.
easy because you're not going to break threads. You're not going to you can abuse that thread and it will take it. What I use is if you go to Joann's or Hancock or one of those type places, they have thread that they tell you is just for a serger, right? Which is a 4-thread machine that finishes edges of garments.
Yeah.
I have one in my attic if you guys need one. I haven't used it in years. But it's cones. They're about that tall. Base is about that. That's what this little attachment right here is for. That cone with the cardboard on the inside will fit right over that and it'll keep it from wiggling around and shit. These are for regular size. Your little hole in your thread. The spool should go right through there. Let's see if we can get this to actually spool. The problem you'll find with cheap thread a lot is when they wind it, they'll overlap it a bunch and they'll do it in a really
So it gets in the knot.
with too much tension. So yeah, knots. And then when you're sewing, you'll be going right along and you'll look up and your spool will be up here bouncing around and wrapping around your thread arm and all that kind of stuff. So if I can get this in line.
Yeah, so my apologies for not.
Oh, it's not a problem.
getting some
All right, there we
decent-
go, there we go.
I'm sure it's like,
All right, we'll try with the bobbin winding first. So the bobbin stand. You come through the back of that hole. Come through the back and out. Okay.
We had a spare bobbin, I thought.
We have a ton of spare bobbins.
Okay, gotcha.
Make sure you're in between the two discs. You see the two discs? Tuck in between them. Right? You won't get any tension if it doesn't do that.
I would have just been going straight for the bobbin.
So, you got a bunch of bobbins.
We need to order some then. I'm kidding.
All right. In the bobbins, you can see there's a little hole right there. Some of them have holes all the way around, but it has a little hole right here. What that's for is you to stick the thread through. Otherwise, how the hell would it catch? So you stick it through. Oh, there's a spool. That's what that is.
Yeah, or something's going on today.
Pop it on there like that, snug. Push that down to engage, or the bobbin winder will not wind. Go to
And that's what you talked about.
Yeah, I just need to slow it down a little bit. I tend to get reckless. And there it is.
Yeah, good. You're like all the things you're talking about. But if it was a good spool,
Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
yeah,
Right.
and you don't have to wrap the whole thing.
So anyway, when you're done with it, it just unclips. Cut your thread. Bobbin comes off. Right? Easy peasy. This stuff right here is from where I was holding the thread out before I started winding it. Just cut that extra stuff off and it won't be a problem. All right. What's threader? So you go through. Oh, this one. Go through your other hole. Through here. Now I'm going to try it first without using this guy because I never really used those. The wheel.
So it kind of angles.
What I will
forward.
do is just use the hole. It should have enough tension stuff on it that it's not going to be that big a problem. I might be wrong and look like a dick, but okay. Got 2 holes right here. From the back.
Oh, wait, I'm running on.
I'm on the foot. Okay. From the back end, both ones.
Need some light?
No, I'm good.
Need this little light plugged in?
So from the
I know,
back,
I can't see
from the
shit.
back on both ones.
Yeah.
All right, it's feeding. So, the next thing you do, there's this little loop right here, right? Through that loop. Okay? Your little plates right here. Make sure you're in between the plates or it's not going to sew, right? There's a hook right there. Under that hook, over this,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and then through here.
And once you got it, we can film it closer. Yeah, this definitely don't get the cheap thread.
There we go. Much better. All right. I just went back up through that hook again. So all that stuff's contained in there. There's another hook just like this one right here. Go through it. This little wiggly guy right here, you go behind it. So it's in that little notch right there. And then through your needle. There are, I'll have to figure out which one this is. My industrial machine fed front to back. This one appears to want to feed side to side. You should feed from the outside in. That's how you get, aren't you? It's kind of gross, but I help. Find you help if you lick your fingers and kind of wipe it where the needle is. You'll thread a lot easier for some.
Oh, okay. Just don't stick it through your thumb.
Well, let me try not to. Thank you. When you're blind like
Oh,
me.
man, I have bifocals on now.
I think I'm gonna have to
I
somewhere.
got them now.
Okay.
Want me to try?
What happened, dude?
Oh. Yeah, so imagine $5 thread would cut clean in a way. Plus
Yeah.
the scissors help. You need to
You
have.
see, if you look real close at that, you can see like a little
Yeah.
fiber coming
Oh,
off
yeah.
the top of
It
it.
makes it
Makes threading the
impossible.
machine an absolute bitch. Anyway.
Yeah, because the fuzz is just hitting and
Yeah.
reflecting. What? You want me to get some scissors?
You got
We
some?
have some scissors.
Are there any tools that make that easier?
Yeah, there is a needle threader, but it's just as frustrating as threading a needle. This is a real small gauge needle.
Oh, they're not over there?
Look on top of the heater and the.
Oh, on top of the heater at the screen room. So you don't want to take the needle off to do this?
No. Damn it.
Running with
Get some scissors
scissors.
if you want to give it a. They're not the best, but
Better than my
better than a
teeth.
knife. You don't sew at all anymore, huh? Oh, no. Oh yeah. Somebody else does that work.
No, I help her whenever she sews. So I always wind up fixing the machine. I'm the maintenance guy for the machines at the house. No, yeah, I sold my industrial and spend my time doing woodwork and playing Dungeons and Dragons like an asshole.
All right. Bud.
Probably good.
And that spring is in the way too, isn't it? So you can't get your fingers closed. You took that one off of yours. 'Cause
Yeah, I
it's probably
broke-
for this damn
I
reason.
just fucking
right
broke them
here.
off. Like this on this thing. There we go. Come on. Do it for daddy. Skagoosh. All right. Make sure your thread is not caught on this little guard thing. It'll screw up your sewing. All right. So we'll get under that. Your bobbin's loaded in, right? But you got to pull your thread up first, okay? That's where this little knob over here comes in handy, winding it by hand. Wind it back towards yourself, and then wind it back up with the thread in there. You should be able to just pull it and get the thread out from the bobbin, like so.
Yeah.
All right? Got to have both threads out for it to sew. Both threads come out towards you, in between the middle of the foot and back. Got any fabric?
I know that's another thing.
We had a scrap. She had a scrap T-shirt.
Okay, okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Those are scrappy shirts.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Look at you. Oh, that's a nice design. Oh, that's the Coliseum. Yeah, hey. It's tight. So, we're doing
Sew it up
the.
where nobody can wear it.
Our T-shirts are doing the
Cougar
walk-in shop. No, we're not doing Cougar this year.
yacht?
I'll tell you about that off camera. So anyway, you go in.
Make sure it's down.
Gotta be down. Now this could be interesting considering how cheap this thread is, but
Yeah.
we'll start slow and see what happens. Alright, let's check our stitches. Stitches look good. Okay, this is actually pretty cool. I'm glad we're using two different kinds of thread.
Oh yeah,
Because you can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Bobbin thread is
Yeah.
that gray one on the bottom, and you can see in between those where it looks like solid individual stitches, those aren't solid individual stitches. That's the black thread from here yanking it up and tightening it. Okay?
Yeah.
Now it looks like it's
Yeah,
not individual
just a
stitches.
pull.
It's a pull, right?
Yeah.
That's just a continuous line of thread, and where it looks like it's individual stitches is the black thread yanking it through.
Gotcha.
Now,
I
this
never knew it worked that way.
machine isn't a piece of shit, but if it were, and if the tension was messed up, you'd see little white dots on this side where the
Gotcha.
thread from the bobbin was coming up.
Yeah, like
You
I-
can
I
see
like
one here and
one.
there, but that's not a big deal. If
Yeah.
you see it on every single one, your tension is off. Your
Yeah.
tension is way
It'd be hard
too
to tell
tight.
if the
Right, if
bobbin
it's the
thread
same
is the
thread.
same color.
Now,
So if you want your inside thread to be a little different color.
how you back tack and keep your stitches from unraveling
Yeah.
is you go forward a few like that, and you hit your reverse over here, go back, over your thread, go that way. Now that's not coming out. That's 3 layers of
They
intersewn
just
thread
kind
on
of
top
jump
of
on
each
top
other.
of one another.
It ain't going anywhere. All right. And this is what I was talking about. If you see, this is how you break needles, right? If someone's in here and they're doing this,
Gotcha.
right? This needle, it has a very, very small window underneath your platform
And if you
to go into the
bend it-
bobbin and grab your head. If you bend it, it's going to slam into that bobbin casing and snap in half,
Gotcha.
right? I mean, it's so all your hands are doing is keeping it going straight, right?
Keeping the fabric from bunching up
Yep.
behind it.
Let the machine feed. All you do is guide, right? And you can, turn while you're sewing if you need to, if you're doing a sleeve or something like that. Sometimes it's necessary, but it's rare for if you're making garments. Normally, every garment is
Change the
made by
direction.
straight lines. Curves are just tiny little straight lines that you
Yeah, yeah.
So you can do that, but the problem with doing that is people have a tendency to start tugging on the fabric. It starts bending
You
your
have
needle.
to have a good touch.
You got to have a good touch. And really, you're only moving
laterally. You're not doing this component to it. You're
And
not
unfortunately,
pushing
we
or
won't be
shoving.
police. Not unfortunately.
Yeah.
We won't be policing people if they're in their studios anyway. So
I
it's gonna
would
happen.
provide some needles, but it might not be a bad idea to be like,
Here's
you know,
the needles for your residency.
yeah, if you
break
break
them,
them, you need
you
to
have
buy
to get your
more.
own.
Yeah, and the needles are dirt cheap,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, it's like $2 for 10.
Yeah.
So if not even glass. The best ones when you go to Joann's, the one that I always use that I like is there's a red plastic pack that looks about this 3/4 the size of a matchbook, and it has a little pop top.
Yeah.
It's full of needles. There'll be like 10 in there, a couple of different sizes. I prefer the 16s. They're awesome. There's also different kind of needles depending on what you're sewing. If you're sewing super soft leather, this won't make like a belt. You know what I mean? Like it won't top stitch a Western belt or
Gotcha.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to do it.
This sewing machine.
No. A sewing machine ain't going to do it. You have to have a very specific kind of industrial. They're very tall with a needle the size of your finger. You know, it's basically like a mechanized awl. Yeah, it's a mechanized awl. So, but this will sew like really like fabric leather. Like if you wanted to make like leather pants or something like that, this will sew the piss out of it. Yeah, this will sew the piss out of it. So, anywho's.
Nice.
Yeah. You know,
I'm kind of glad we had the cheap crap because now you teach all the things that will go wrong.
yep. This is kind of a good speed that I like to go at. I mean, that you're starting to really, you're gonna break your thread. You're not gonna sew straight.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what you're doing if that's the speed you're sewing. Generally, you just kind of need to hop through. When you get to the end of the stitch, like I am now,
Do the backward,
always
forward
back
thing.
or it's gonna unravel. Right? When you're done, always raise it up. Don't let it sew when the fabric runs off of it. You'll bunch your thread up underneath it, make a big bird's nest. Lift your foot up. If you feel resistance while you're pulling the thread out, just kind of give that a little twist one way or the other and it'll unlock the bobbin.
Gotcha.
So you can then just spool your thread out. Never clip it here,
Give
or
yourself
you're going to
some
be
space.
digging thread out of the bobbin every damn time. So clip it up here, leave yourself a little leeway.
That way you can pull it out.
Yep, pull it out more when you're going.
I mean, I guess you could pull it out and cut it as far as you want.
Yeah, you don't want it to. Yeah, but if you do it over here, you're just going to wind up digging shit out of the
Yeah.
bobbin every time. But you know, it's sewing. It looks like the tension's good.
You made it look easy.
If the tension were not good on this, ways that you can spot bad tension, right? When I set this and I let it go, this fabric's got a little stretch to it. It's, you know, lightweight cotton or whatever. You see how there's little gathers in here, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about? It's not completely flat, right?
Yeah, it's got-
those you can iron out.
It's like paper
That's
you
not
got
an
water
issue.
on.
Yeah, that's not an issue. That you can iron out, right? No big deal. Now, if you pulled it out and it was doing that kind of thing, and that's not what you were going for, then your tension is off, right?
Okay.
The first thing that you check before you start screwing with your tension knob over here is make sure it's threaded correctly, okay? One reason that I don't necessarily use this is because if you're sewing through something really thick and you need that extra tension, you can then use this, right? And basically all you do is come in and around and then through. So that little plate's holding it on. I don't use them. I've never really found a situation where I need that extra blast. But make sure you're threaded properly. If you're not wrapped from the back in around this, that can lower your tension, right? You want just enough resistance from the thread on this side to make your tension match. Too much resistance from this side, you'll snap your thread. Too little resistance from this side, your stitches will look like crap. Okay? The bobbin tension doesn't change. The bobbin tension is all contingent upon this up here. If you start having bad issues with your bobbin tension, then you've got an issue with the bobbin housing. It needs to be looked at, clean it, do something with it. But that bobbin tension, all it is a spool that feeds. Everything is controlled by this top thread as far as tension is concerned. You can tell you've got too much oil in the machine when it starts bubbling this. Like, oh, you got a little bit too much oil in there. You know what I mean? But this is about as bare bones a machine as you can get. It's an exceptional machine that'll last forever, but it doesn't have a bunch of frills. It doesn't have a zigzag stitch. It sews lines that way and this way through everything. And it'll sew, you know, we should be able to, if this thread will take it, but we should be able to, you know,
Triple up.
yeah, we should be able to do some damage.
Give that shirt to you.
I got a Simber at the house. That's a big boy shirt though, man.
I'm joking. I don't even know what that was. That was a screw up.
I just bought something else that I think is that.
We need
Oh,
It looks like a little clip like that.
Scissors somewhere.
I dropped them somewhere.
Oh, there's a Rick. Can you grab this? I think in my head is a little too
Yeah,
vertigo-y,
It's
so
no big deal.
Oh, I
Now
see.
that the needle's threaded, but yeah, like, see? I mean, that's 6 layers of the same stuff. And the stitch looks exactly the same as the 2 layers.
very nice.
Yeah, nice.
You know, I mean, it's a quality machine. I encourage you to mess with it to build the touch with this pedal because it goes from 0 to 60 with not much push, man. I mean, it's out.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to develop a touch with the industrial machines. The slower you go, the straighter you sew. That's what they say on public access. So, you know, just keep in mind that there's never any reason to haul ass on this machine. You're gonna make something that looks crappy, you're gonna break needles, and you're gonna hurt yourself. Just go at a nice, steady, slow pace. You'll be able to hear it. If it doesn't sound smooth, if you hear clanking, grating, catching, something like that, that means something's out of whack, and it's most likely your tension, and the noise you're hearing is the needle bumping into one side or another of the bobby casing, right? Or you're out of oil.
Gotcha.
In that case, just add oil or slow your ass down. The needles will wear out. The thicker the fabric, you could sew t-shirt fabric with this needle for 30 years and never wear it out. But if you're sewing 4 or 5 layers of canvas, you know, pleather, vinyl, something like that, you're gonna have to change your needles out more often. As your needle's dull, the problem is it'll start bending the needle. That point gets dull, and instead of going straight through and piercing it, it'll start knocking it a little bit off track. You'll hit your bottom case and it'll break. The needle will break. You're going to break a lot of needles. It happens. You know, so but that's it, man. I mean, it's up and running. One easy way to change thread, until you get comfortable with the way that the thread goes in it, leave this threaded, leave that on there. When you get the thread that you want, just take this off, put your new thread on, tie a little knot in them, pull it all the way through.
Just follow the same
Yeah,
path.
and it'll just pull. I mean, from back here, just not your bobbin thread because you don't want to waste your bobbin thread.
Yeah.
But take your black thread and just pull it through until the knot hits your needle, and then you just got to re-thread the needle, and it's threaded correctly with your new color.
Nice.
So, I mean, I would just do that until you get comfortable threading it. This thing, it's only got 2 stages. It goes up through that hole in between the plates into your bobbin, clunk, clunk.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Plus
Easy
the video
peasy.
that he's got will be,
Yeah.
and we'll take some pictures of the close up of the
Yeah.
way that's threaded there. So
But
if anybody
you
needs
should
to
be
do it.
good.
Cool.
It's rolling.
You good?
Yep.